Hi everybody and welcome to Mid-Shelf Gaming. I'm Ryan.
I'm Will.
And I'm Edwin.
For the launch of our channel, we thought it would be fitting to talk about various games that launched consoles.
We each picked a couple of games from our favorite consoles and handhelds.
We hope you enjoy.
Tetris is the best-selling game of all time, period. Originally developed in the Soviet Union in the 1980s by Alexei Pajitnov, it has become a household name. There are very few people who have not played any version of Tetris. Tetris was launched with the original Game Boy on April 21st, 1989, and is responsible for the high number of sales. Hank Rogers met with Nintendo of America president at the time, Mino Arakawa, and convinced them to bundle Tetris with the original Game Boy. Originally, they had planned to bundle Super Mario Land with the Game Boy instead of Tetris. If you want boys to play, bundle Mario. If you want the whole family to play, bundle Tetris, he told them. And not only did Tetris launch the original Game Boy, but it launched the Game Boy Color as well, with Tetris DX on October 21st, 1998. Tetris is a simple but addicting puzzle game. The concept is very simple. Drop blocks down, try to form lines, and if you hit the top, it's game over. Doesn't get much more complicated than that. The Game Boy version of Tetris has 4 modes. Marathon, where you keep playing until you hit the top and try for a high score. Ultra, in which you try to score as high as you can against a timer. 40 lines, where as the name implies, you see how fast you can complete 40 lines. And finally, Versus Com, where you play against a computer player and try to score better than them to force them to the top. Tetris isn't a game that has a set goal necessarily. You can't beat the game. You can only get better. I remember so many nights I played this game trying to beat my best time on 40 lines, and then, once I got a time under 3 minutes, I tried to see how far I could go in Marathon. The game doesn't want to let you go. It will keep sucking you back in. There were even reports in the late 80s of office workers getting distracted from playing Tetris at their desks, or even on Air Force One. For me, Tetris is and always will be one of my go-to games when I need to just take my mind off life for a little while. It's an easy game to pick up, but a hard one to master. And with regards to the Game Boy, it's the game that sold the system.
Altered Beast is a side-scrolling beat-em-up released in 1989 by Sega for the Sega Genesis. This game was originally the pack-in title for Genesis before being replaced by Sonic the Hedgehog just a year or so later. It is noted for its ancient Greece setting and its quality of voice acting.
Rise from your grave.
The quality being questionable. The story of the game involves the player being resurrected by Zeus to save his daughter Athena from a demon god. It is based on the popular arcade game of the same name also made by Sega. The game plays as a side-scrolling beat-em-up with the main gimmick being that you collect power-ups that make you transform into various beasts. Each level sees you transform into either a wolfman, flying dragon, turtle rock boy, and more. The game has 6 levels that range from a wide variety of ancient Greece aesthetics, like general plains with columns, dark caves, and a volcano stage. That's pretty neat. Graphically, it's pretty okay. Definitely impressive when comparing it to what else was on the market at the time. The music is mostly forgettable, and nowadays, the game's sound design is mostly known for its voices. Control-wise, this game is a bit clunky. You can punch and kick left, right, and up, as well as crouch attacks. There is a slight lag in attacks which makes combat a little difficult, especially when multiple enemies swarm you, but it gets easier with some getting used to. Even playing in 2-player mode is still a challenge, but it is more fun. Thankfully, the game does possess a level select feature as well as some additional cheats to make your experience a little bit easier. This game is affordable for a classic-styled beat-em-up, although with around average gameplay and much better alternatives for beat-em-ups on the Genesis, you could probably pass on this one.
Damn, that's catchy.
so everyone knows of the legacy of the Game Boy and how Tetris jump-started a handheld revolution. However, Alleyway seems to always get lost in the mix. This game, in my opinion, is the next best launch game on the Game Boy after Tetris and Super Mario Land. This game is another ball paddle game in the vein of Atari's Breakout or Taito's Arkanoid, but the first one on the portable machine. So an interesting thing that Nintendo did to market this game was that they included Mario as the pilot of the paddle ball, which is actually a spaceship according to the back of the game box. I mean, where does Mario even find time to be a space pilot in addition to being a carpenter, plumber, doctor, tennis, golf, and soccer player among other occupations? This is one game that if you have time to spare and enough patience, you can beat this game in a couple of hours. My main problem with this game is that it's sorely missing any power-ups of any sort, and the lack of music during gameplay was a missed opportunity by Nintendo to add some much needed substance to an otherwise average game. Thankfully, this game, whether on a physical cartridge or on the 3DS Virtual Console, is very affordable, and both can be found for under $5, and at that price I can recommend it.
Nintendo's golden boy, Mario, has almost always seen the launch of a Nintendo console. This was no exception with the launch of the GameCube with Mario is Missing 2, Luigi's Mansion. Both the game and the console were released on November 18th, 2001, ushering in the era of my personal favorite console just one day before my birthday. This game is Nintendo's attempt at a first-party horror game, and it finally gives some much-needed love to Player 2. Luigi finds out that he has won a contest he did not enter, no reason for suspicion here, so he goes to claim his prize of a mansion. Mario goes on to check it out ahead of him and gets captured by King Boo. The Mario Bros clearly never got to talk about how to avoid getting tricked by Nigerian scammers as kids. Navigating the haunted corridors of this mansion armed with some old man's vacuum cleaner, Luigi sets out to find his brother. I never understood why it was a vacuum, though I guess it beats a high-tech thermos. He is aided by the mysterious old man, Professor Egad. As Luigi, you have to fight all sorts of super spooky specters, and try your best not to get too scared in the depths of this haunted mansion. Not only do you hunt down regular ghost grunts, but special portrait ghosts that have escaped from the Professor's gallery, as well as the 50 boos that you let loose in the mansion. Once you recapture the portrait ghosts, you can take a look at them in the gallery, and if you are able to get them in one go, you can get them in a gold frame. The game still holds up presentation-wise. The footage being shown here was recorded using a Carby, which outputs an HDMI. For a game that came out almost 20 years ago, it still looks like it could be younger than that. And for a horror game aimed at younger audiences, it actually succeeds in being creepy at a few parts. I normally don't like horror at all, but it's not that scary. The success of this game eventually landed a sequel on the 3DS called Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. In addition, Luigi's Mansion was recently re-released on the Nintendo 3DS back in October. There is another sequel currently in development as well for the Nintendo Switch at the time of recording. The controls of Dark Moon and the re-release are a little easier to handle than the classic GameCube controls, with slight quality of life improvements. But all in all, Luigi's Mansion still handles quite well. Luigi's Mansion is hands down a must-have for any GameCube collection, and with the re-release, you can take this instant classic on the go.
The Raiden Project is a port of the first two games in the Raiden series brought to the home console market for the Sony PlayStation. Released as a launch title for the North American market on September 9th, 1995, this collection is noteworthy for being based on the arcade versions of the games. Raiden 1 and 2 are vertical shooters that rely on dodging lots of ground and aerial forces while collecting power-ups to make your own ship stronger. The power-ups include upgrades that make your bullets do more damage and shoot wider, laser increases that buff straightforward attacks, and my personal favorite, homing beams, like the plasma beam seen here in Raiden 2. As you collect upgrades, you can also pick up homing missiles and screen-clearing bombs which can do devastating damage to bosses. Typical shmup stuff, all packed on one disc. Each game consists of 8 levels that vary in intensity and design. These games also support 2 players, which add more fun and complexity. One of the star features in the Raiden series is its soundtrack, and this game is no exception. The collection here contains the original soundtracks as well as an arranged soundtrack you can switch back and forth from in the options menu. Another noteworthy addition is the ability to play these games in horizontal mode, which uses the original arcade aspect ratio. And if you're bad at shmups like me, you can also adjust the difficulty and credit limit. This one isn't too hard, but with its vast option settings, it makes playing a lot easier. Overall, this makes a fine addition to your shmup collection if you can find it for the right price. This game is also in a long box, so have fun displaying it next to the rest of your regular CD-sized PlayStation 1 games.
This is one of the iconic songs that Sega Saturn owners have loved since the launch of the console and remains one of the most fun games the Saturn has to offer. As the Saturn launched earlier than anticipated, this game was rushed for the North American market and it shows. The game is very unimpressive to look at, especially when comparing to the original Ridge Racer on the PlayStation, which was also a launch game. Not only that, you probably have noticed all the pop-up that plagues the game and was another issue due to the early launch. Now the real reason to play this game is of the excellent music and fun gameplay, and is why I think Daytona USA is better than its upgraded version, Championship Edition, that fixed the pop-up and graphical issues among other things. To start things off, one of the most important things I look for in a video game is how enjoyable a soundtrack is, and as we saw with Alleyway, music goes a long way towards the enjoyment of a game. Takanobu Mitsuyoshi, the composer in charge of Daytona USA, not only composed the soundtrack but also provided the lyrics that I still find myself humming to along this day, and songs like Let's Go Away and King of Speed are favorites among Sega fans. Sega may have been dumb for releasing the Saturn and Daytona early, but at least Daytona is completely playable, and even though it only has 3 tracks, I find myself going back and replaying those tracks because I get myself in that just one more time mentality, where you just fall short of your goal and immediately replay and try to redeem yourself. I'm definitely rusty at Daytona because I haven't played in years, but I've had just as much fun as I did when I first got it. AM2 even included a few Easter eggs, such as a karaoke mode and sound clips from other games such as from Panzer Dragoon and Space Harrier. Thankfully, the game was bundled later in the console's lifespan along with Virtua Fighter 2 and Virtua Cop and has remained an extremely cheap game for the Saturn, and the definitive arcade version can be purchased on Xbox Live and PSN on the Xbox 360 and PS3 respectively. I love Daytona USA, and it definitely represents when Sega was king of bringing the arcade experience to the home market.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We hope you enjoyed.
Let us know some other launch titles that you enjoyed.
And stay tuned for next time where we shifted into high gear. We're doing PS1 kart racers.